Roger Reed, great to see you. I'm with Roger, who has been a healthcare executive for a number of years, somebody I've known and admired for a long period of time. Roger, great to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, John. Really appreciate the time to chat again.
Thank you. So Roger, I'll just dig right in. One of the most unpredictable years that we've ever had as a healthcare executive and somebody that is given to that space for such a long period of time. Give me your thoughts as we're in Q4 and what you've seen this year, things that you're proud of in the healthcare community, things that you know that need to be updated and fixed. What are a few of those?
Well, right now, the major issue across the board in healthcare is people are avoiding care. They're putting it off. Hospitals are canceling elective procedures. And something like 60% of people surveyed say, nope, I haven't even filled my prescriptions. You know, I'm not going to the doctor, I'm not taking my meds, I'm just waiting for this to be over. So that's an extremely dangerous place for us to be as a society as it relates to healthcare. So that's, I think, number one is a concern to all of us in healthcare. And how do we restart people getting preventive care and maintenance care that they're ignoring and putting off right now? And I don't have the answer to that, but I know we're going to have to solve that. Now, the second thing that is really glaring is healthcare costs, and not necessarily for employers and government, but for individuals and their families. You know, the vast majority of people in this country are on a high deductible health plan, and the vast majority of those people don't even have $500 saved up for an appliance repair or a home repair or a car repair, but they have a $2,500 deductible. They're paying $10,000 a year in premiums, and then they have to pay another $2,500 out of pocket before they have coverage for illness care. So to me, that is another huge barrier to people receiving care. And so, you know, my partners and I have been putting our heads together to say, how can we help individuals and families who are in that situation where they need to get care but can't get it until they meet their deductible? You know, there must be a better way to do that. So that's one of the things that we've been focused on. But I think those two things, you know, people avoiding it because of COVID, people avoiding care because of cost. And so it's a tsunami that's going to catch up with us eventually. And there's going to be a lot of very sick people who are being discovered with late stage diseases.
So as you see and been a part of healthcare organizations that have always had staffing challenges, right? And you've been on both sides. You've been, as we talked about, you and I were first connected through Blue Cross Blue Shield when you were there as an executive and I was there as a vendor, and then other areas of healthcare that you've continued to give to. How do you prepare for that? You know, as executives out there today are having to try to do planning after experiencing 2020. I mean, the Q4 2019 plans, right, by April were shot and gone, right? How as an executive are you thinking about planning for 2021?
Well, my companies are going to be absolutely virtual. And if your company isn't virtual, or if you don't have virtual capability to see patients, engage patients, communicate with patients, do scheduling, all of those things that can be done and should be done virtually, then you're going to be in big trouble. And unfortunately, a lot of executives in healthcare look at the whole virtual space as, well, that's nice to have, but now they're beginning to understand you have to have it. This virtual shift that has basically leapfrogged us ahead 10 years in technology development, just rapidly deploying currently, is not going to go away. I know, talking to several people who have healthcare issues, that they are now experiencing the whole telemedicine process, and they're not going back to the office. If they don't have to, they are going to continue seeking that care via virtual telemedicine solutions. So I think healthcare executives have got to say virtual care and technology is not a nice to have anymore. It's a must have, and you better get on that bandwagon sooner better than later, because it's just not going to go away.
Awesome. Of the things that you're seeing out there that have been, as you said, technology has leapfrogged 10 years, what are a couple that you've seen that are like that should have been there 5 years ago, but I'm really happy to see it there now?
Well, I think the technology piece, we've had telemedicine for decades, and it just hasn't gotten a lot of traction. It wasn't embraced a lot. Most of that driven because of third-party reimbursement. The docs weren't getting paid to do telemedicine the same way as doing an office visit. CMS has changed that. Most of the big health insurance carriers have changed that, and they're now covering telemedicine visits at a reasonable price of reimbursement. Unfortunately, now that everyone thought COVID was kind of waning, the big BUCAs, the Blues, the Cignas, the Aetnas, United, et cetera, they're now going back and saying, well, I think we're going to have a copay on these telemedicine visits. So, just when we started to get really good traction, reimbursement now is going to maybe slow that down a little bit, but they're not going to stop doing it. And it's going to be integral to every health plan in the future. And every provider is going to have some way to deliver it. Maybe not half the time or 60% of the time, but maybe it's just 20% of the time, but they still have to do it.
So as we finish up, and I thank you so much. We could talk all day long, but I want to be cognizant of your time. As kind of the final question, what are you expecting out of the healthcare industry next year, and where do you believe in the next 2 to 3 years we will be from a healthcare perspective?
Well, I think there's all kinds of new things being rushed to the marketplace. We're talking about vaccines. We're talking about policies around those things. Healthcare costs are certainly not going to go down. They're still going to be rising. There's still going to be a shift of cost more and more to consumers, and the consumer is where we all need to be focusing. How do we help them with this financial burden that's being pushed over to them? How do we help them continue to get access? When I look at that, I think there's a whole set of things that can be done virtually for those people that with very little cost, that can slide in underneath of these high deductible plans and help them get telemedicine, help them get telepsychiatry and behavioral health, help them get cheaper generic drugs that they might need, virtual wellness, all kinds of products like that can be bundled and packaged at a very affordable rate so that those families and individuals can still get some care during this inflationary period in healthcare. We've been talking about healthcare costs since the 1970s, and it's a perennial subject. And I can't remember more than a couple of years of my career where we said, hey, you know what, healthcare is going to cost less next year. It happened once, I think, but it's just not going to be the case. And so we have to find ways for people to get care under these high deductible plans.
Perfect. As I said, Roger, great to see you. I'm with Roger Reed, healthcare executive. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a fantastic holiday season, Roger.
You too, John. Good talking to you.
Thank you.